Chicago is a mess, at least when it comes to the shootings, the gun violence. And joining us now is Ryan Burrow, ABC News correspondent. Ryan, another weekend, another deadly weekend in Chicago.
Yeah, this has become, a weekly thing. I mean, I'd like to say that this is some kind of surprise that we saw 60 people shot and 11 dead over the holiday weekend, but all we have to do is flash back to Labor Day weekend, flash back to 4th of July weekend, flash back to Memorial Day weekend. I mean, the story is the same every time. You've got a bunch of young men tend to get involved with guns, and as a result, we see a lot of shootings, and unfortunately, not a lot of arrests as a result of these shootings. Now, the police superintendent yesterday of Chicago, Eddie Johnson, coming out and demanding that lawmakers, we've got obviously new legislature coming up here in Illinois at the beginning of next year. He wants them to get together and really put down some tougher laws, because what he says they've been seeing is they've been picking up bad guys who are repeat gun offenders off the streets. And they've been going to jail for days, weeks, and then they're back out on the streets doing the exact same bad stuff. So he wants stricter laws that's going to keep them behind bars. It's going to keep them from having their buddies bail them out and get them back out on the streets. In the meantime, he says he's also picking up, on average, one illegal gun every hour this year off of the street. So he says he's doing his part to make sure that the flow of guns stops, although it doesn't necessarily seem like it's stopping. It seems like they're just trying to capture as many as they can. In the meantime, the numbers continue to rise. We've got over 700 shooting-related deaths, nearly 800 homicides, and so far on the year, this is incredible, 4,300 injured in shootings.
That's incredible. It sounds like a war zone.
It does. It's important to note, though, that most of these shootings are happening in about 5 communities here in Chicago. It's not really downtown. It's not up by Wrigley Field. It's not, in some of these other parts, it's not down necessarily by U.S. Cellular Field. It's in these 5 kind of pockets of Chicago. And, the thing is that police know who a lot of the victims are. These people who are shot and killed, a lot of them are either previous criminals. They're people who are on the police's strategic list of people who are either known criminals or people who are in danger. And as a result, some of these people who are fatally shot were either shot earlier or were involved in some kind of crime earlier. So police seem to know who these people are and who's doing the shooting. It's just a matter of making the arrest and keeping them behind bars.
Is there really a level of confidence that stricter laws are what is needed? I mean, we see that with gun laws. Let's make stricter gun laws, and yet we continue to see the guns show up on the streets.
Oh, Chicago's got one of the strictest gun laws in the country. I mean, there are no gun shows here. There's barely anywhere where you can walk with concealed carry. I mean, the state law requires that now concealed carry is allowed, but for a long time that was not the case in Chicago. No, it's not. It's probably a part of the problem. That the police superintendent is hoping he can have some kind of influence. But the fact of the matter is, too, and a lot of people are pointing the finger at him, if you're only arresting at 46%, if you're only clearing 46% of these murders, you're letting a lot of bad guys slip through the cracks. So the national average, as far as solving murders, is 68%, and Chicago's at 46%. And part of the problem is that there's this no snitch rule in these communities. People may witness a shooting, people may know who the gunman is, people may have heard, people blabbing about what they did, but they're not turning these people in. And that's a real big problem. And a lot of the community leaders and a lot of the churches are trying to get people to come forward and fess up because they want them to help out the cops to kind of locate who these shooters are, but nobody's willing to open their mouth and say what they saw.
And Ryan, we've heard some of these heartbreaking stories throughout the year of young children being shot in Chicago, children shooting children in many cases. What about those instances where, either they can't find the gunman or they do find the gunman and they're juveniles?
Yeah, it's interesting from that perspective because some of obviously the juvenile cases are really high profile. If you have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who's shot while standing on a porch, maybe got caught in some crossfire. If you have maybe the cousin of Dwayne Wade, which we saw earlier this year, fatally shot. If you have the grandson of Congressman Danny Davis, it's interesting because in many of these cases where someone was maybe caught in the crossfire or maybe the wrong person was targeted, then you do see people come and talk up and fess up, or someone who admits what they saw, and then the arrests are made. But it's these cases of maybe these 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds who are standing on a street corner, at 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday, who get shot where no one says anything. And that's a big part of these cases that aren't solved and aren't resolved. And, we're talking about Chicago, obviously, and the murder rate here is unacceptable, but we're seeing these same problems in Memphis. We're seeing these same problems in Milwaukee, where the murder rate is actually higher. I know St. Louis has had its fair share. I think last year was the murder capital as far as the rates go. So
per capita,
this is a problem. Yeah, per capita. I mean, it's a problem that's going on in many cities across the country. But what's interesting is cities like New York and L.A., not nearly as bad.
Yeah.
And, it's a combination of several different factors. And right now, cities like Chicago and Milwaukee and St. Louis and Memphis are trying to figure out the formula.
Other than the legislating out of this, is there any community program, any effort internally with the churches or with the community leaders that are trying to put a stop to this?
Absolutely. I mean, they're raising money every time there's a fatal shooting of maybe an innocent person, or we've had a Chicago Public Schools teacher who was shot. We've had the sons of various community leaders shot, and they try to raise money and they try to raise awareness, and they say, hey, the reward's been bumped up to $20,000. All you got to do is come out and say who it was who pulled the trigger. We won't say who you are, but it's a struggle. And the mayor's trying to do his part in getting jobs and business to kind of these very violent neighborhoods. But if you're looking to open a business, you don't want to put it in a neighborhood where there's a shooting every weekend or someone died in front of your store. So it's just an uphill battle. But in the meantime, the downtown area continues to thrive, and there are more cranes up in downtown Chicago right now than ever before. So there's kind of this downtown versus the rest of the city mentality going on too.
Let's hope for a better 2017.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
Ryan Burrow, ABC News correspondent, thank you so much.
All right, take care.
It is 7:28, 32 degrees, KTRS, the Big 550.
Hi, this is Jeff Lapidus.